Right. So, welcome to the first video of a series about how to use Nuke. And this one, we're going to go through just the basics, go through the interface, how to navigate, and a few of your more common nodes that you use and some shortcuts for them, right? So, if you haven't used Nuke before, this is a compositing package. It's a bit different from After Effects as it's node based. Okay, so you do have a timeline, sort of, but basically it's based on nodes that you string together to form a network, right? And if you're not familiar with nodes, uh, think of nodes as a little set of instructions, perhaps, or like a small software, like a small app that does just one thing. Okay? And then what you do is you string them together to form a network. And you go from one node to the next until you get the output that you like. Okay, and you do that here in the node graph, right? So to get around the node graph is middle mouse, so you're moving around, scroll, uh, zooms in and out. Okay, um, right mouse button gives you the menu. Okay, so wherever you right click you get the menu. Okay, and then for your left mouse, that's how you select stuff. Okay, so let's plug in some nodes. So let's import something, or in Nuke terms, it's called read. So press R, you make a read node, and then I'm going to pick something, say open, and that is this node now. Okay, so it says read one, and it gives you the name of the file that you just imported or read in, so to speak. Okay, and this is your viewer. This node is always here. You should always have a viewer. And you see these arrows. Normally, you can just pick them up and connect them. Okay, so now that this node is connected to the viewer, I can see it here in my viewer one, right? To disconnect the node, just shake it and it disconnects. Okay, to reconnect, you grab the arrow, connect it, or in the case of a viewer, right? Specifically a viewer, you can just press um, a number. So if I have this node selected, I press 1, it connects. Oops, it connects to that. Okay, and then here you can see I have my timeline and I can play, and now this is animating, right? Pretty straightforward so far, right? Now, if I want to add another node, I can either go here and look for the node that I want. Okay, so all of these are the different nodes, transform nodes. They're categorized here, 3D nodes and such. Or if I know the hotkey, I can just type in the hotkey. Let's say I want to blur this. Just press B to blur, right? And I can drag it in between, and now it connects. And then here, if I select this, I have controls for my blur. So I can adjust the size. And you can see it blurs my image. So this is your properties section, your properties panel, right? And this is where you adjust the settings or attributes for anything that might be here. This number shows you how many panels you want. By default, it's 10. So if I have another node, um, let's say a grade node, or G for grade, right? And I connect that here. You'll see I have my grade node, and the previously selected node was the blur. So that's down here. And then the previously selected node was the read, which is down here. If I add another one, uh, say color correction, so C, I put that in there. So that's the color correction. Previously selected was grade. Previously selected was blur. So it keeps on going. Okay. For me, it gets cluttered, you could say. So I limit to two. But this is your choice. If you want more available right away, you can just have them here. I don't think 10 is the max. It's just a default. I believe you can go more than that. Okay, but for me, two is enough. Okay. So you have this node network, you might say. And if I double click something, let's say grade, it's the one that goes to the top of the properties. There you go. Right. So let's grade this. Let's turn up our gain, maybe. Right. And then color correct. Let's adjust, let's say saturation. Okay. So there you go. Now, at any point, if you want to disable a node, let's say you don't want color correction, right? Just select it and you press D for disable. It turns it off. D again turns it back on. So it's a toggle. On, off, on, off. Right? So the blur, same thing. On, off, on, off. Right? If I hold down control, let's move this up. If I hold down control, my okay. If I hold down control, Nuke will give me these two nodes, right? So if I arrange this like so, they these nodes come out halfway between connections. If I click on that, it creates this node, sort of a bend, right? So you can arrange things how you want. So if you want to do it this way, right? It's a bit of housekeeping. So that works. This is also a good way to branch. Okay. So you can think of Nuke as like a pipe, okay, as a system of pipes where you have water flowing in one direction, and then at some point the water will split. Okay, you can do the same thing in Nuke, but instead of water, think of information. Okay, so in this case, this read node or this image has RGBA, so red, green, blue, alpha, and it's an EXR file from Maya. So it has other channels as well. So it has Z depth, specular, diffuse, all of those. And what you can do is you can split. Okay. So for example, you're testing, right? For example, you're testing. This one, if it's a blur, right? And if I copy this to the other side, I can connect this one. And let's say instead of a blur, I want to do a defocus. So I can look for the defocus node, but I know what it's called. So I just hit tab and type in defocus. Okay, I can delete this and stick this in between. And I want to see the difference between a blur and a defocus, right? So right now, all I'm seeing is still this side. Okay, but remember what I said earlier with a view node, right? A viewer node, you can just press numbers. So if I want to see this one instead, I can just type in 2. And then if I want to bounce back and forth, I can deselect anything and just press 1 and 2. Since this is 1, this is 2. Let's go down here. Connect to that. There we go. So one, that's a blur. Two is a defocus. Okay, so in this way, you've split the information, right? And then now I can just switch between the two. If I like something, I can write it out. So that's a W, okay, the right node. I can connect it to what I want. So if I say, I like the defocus better, I can connect the right node to that, double click, and then fill in my right node. So this is the usual file where you want to save it and all that, frame range. And when you want to render, just click render. Then you wait, and then Nuke will export. Okay. What's fun also is I can now click this, connect it there, give it a different name, and write out again. So it gives me, it's very efficient, right? It gives me another output, right? And you can imagine this can get very complex, but as long as you understand which way the information is flowing, you can see the arrows, right? It's easy enough to trace. If you want something more visual to sort of organize, I can press tab and choose a backdrop. And this is kind of like grouping. So I can, let's say, grab these guys, right? So now they're inside this. I can move them around individually. But if I grab the backdrop node, they're moved around as a group. And then here in the backdrop, I can put a label. So let's say blur version, right? And I think I can even change the color, right? So let's say that. Then I can make another backdrop. Let's move that around. Let's get this. Let's make some space. There we go. And let's label this one the focus version, right? So at a glance, you can see, okay, what's going on here? Okay, this is a blur. What's going on here? It's a defocus. This is very, very useful when you have stuff that you're coming back to after so long. Like you worked on a shot and it was final, then you worked on something else, then a few weeks later, they want some edits or they want a different version, they want to revisit for whatever reason, and you open this up, and if you don't have these, it's gonna be very confusing, right? So that's very useful that way. It's also useful if you're sharing your work, so someone who picks up the work after you can see, okay, that's what this is about. This is about. So it's easier for that person. Okay. And another thing is set your settings. You press S. So these are now your project settings. So the usual frame range, frame rate, full size format. So unlike After Effects, where you import a piece of footage and it automatically takes the resolution of the footage, in Nuke, it doesn't assume that. So you can see it here, right? It's correct. This is my resolution HD 720, but it says full size format is 2K Super. So that means if I add other things, um, they're going to be considered as 2K Super. So what I want to do is I want to switch this to match this one. So that is HD 720. There you go. So if I were to add a constant, right, it would be correct, right? Let's get a constant. Right, so a constant is just a color. In After Effects, it's a like a solid layer, I think it's called. So you can adjust. Okay, so let's say this is 3. There you go. Right? Okay, and the last thing for now, anyway, is merge. Merge is where you actually do the comp, the A over B comp. So M is the shortcut for the merge node. And if you can see here in the merge node, you have your operations, right? So these are sort of like the blending modes in Photoshop. They have uh, multiply, overlay, screen, color dodge, color burn. They're all here. Okay, the default is just over. That's a simple A over B. Right. So let's get back our constant. Oops. And let's get a color. So say blue. And if I want to merge, for example, this over this, I can use a merge node, right? Let's make a pipe again. So B is always your background. So this would be the B. This would go into A, right? So A and B. A, B, there you go. So they merged over, right? So let's say, oh, I want to merge the defocused version, right? I can bring this down here and connect this A to the defocused node, and you have that. And again, in your merge node, you can go through um, different blending modes, so mask, multiply, and so on. Screen, overlay, screen, and such. And then over is your default, right? So that's a very, very quick rundown on Nuke and its interface and a little bit on how to think about stuff when you're working in Nuke. If you're used to the hypershade in Maya, it's easy to pick up. If you've done other node-based compositing work with Shake maybe or Fusion, it's easy to pick up, right? So Shake is the same thing. It's sort of like a tree. It's going up and down. Fusion is sideways, but it's easy enough to understand, right? And that is the intro to Nuke.